Thank you.
Right, ladies and gentlemen of the media, welcome to this media briefing. The excellencies are here. There will be a roving microphone for the Q&A session. The Minister of International Relations, Dr. Naledi Pandor, is going to make brief remarks capturing the discussions of the day. Then we're going to get into the Q&A session. Minister?
Thank you very much, DDG. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Thank you for your presence here. Just briefly to indicate that this is the BRICS meeting of foreign affairs ministers, and that the matters we've discussed are matters germane to the BRICS forum. We are not a meeting of any other forum. This is BRICS. And we've discussed BRICS business and the work that we do together as the 5 BRICS countries. So if you want to discuss other issues, that will be for you to discuss somewhere else. This is a meeting of BRICS foreign ministers. As you know, South Africa is the current chair of BRICS. And we have agreed the focus on BRICS and Africa as the key thematic area, focused on accelerating partnerships between Africa and the BRICS countries, as well as directing that partnership toward accelerated and inclusive growth and development, which is an important focus for all of us as the BRICS countries. We've had a very successful meeting under a number of thematic areas. We've also been briefed on preparations for the 15th BRICS Summit, which will be in August this year in Johannesburg, Gauteng province. We've also had a report on the work of the over 200 working group meetings, which are sectoral meetings of BRICS that include academics, think tanks, in our various countries, arts and culture programs between various people-to-people exchange mechanisms. We've also referred to the growing interest in a number of other areas, working group on persons with disability and looking at a stronger working group on medium and micro enterprises, looking at innovation and youth. So the scope of work has begun to really grow. We've also discussed the assignment you're all aware of, that the Sherpas had been tasked with, of looking at institutional development of BRICS or expansion. We have concluded that we haven't as yet got what we believe is a useful document that we could place before the heads of state. So more work will need to be done on this matter. It is still to be processed. And once we have a document that we believe of a summit with the invitation of the BRICS Plus and the outreach, which will include the various African countries will be invited, as well as our BRICS Plus members, the chairs of the various regional community bodies in different regions of the world. So we're going to have quite a significant presence of leaders as part of the BRICS Plus and outreach meetings component of the summit. So all is well in our deliberations as the BRICS Forum, and we're proceeding to work toward the August summit. So I can now hand back to you in different regions of the world. So we're going to have quite a significant presence of leaders as part of the BRICS Plus and Outreach meetings component of the summit. So all is well in our deliberations as the BRICS Forum, and we're proceeding to work toward the August summit. So I can now hand back to you. We will release a joint statement that we've agreed later today. I don't want to delay you by reading through it. It's fairly long, but you will have it available to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We can have first question from Atim Tongana, Newsroom Africa, standing next to me.
Thank you so much, Clayson, and the ministers at large. My name is Atim Torana from Newsroom Africa. So in the context of continuing Western sanctions on Russia, how open or even how committed are you as individual BRICS countries? How open are you to trading on other currencies outside of the dollar? Thank you.
This is a BRICS meeting, and as the BRICS family, we have discussed, along with the New Development Bank, we had one of the senior executives of the New Development Bank briefing our meeting on work that the bank has been doing, looking at the potential use of alternative currencies to the current internationally traded currencies, and looking at how we strengthen the arm of the BRICS Development Bank, and also ensure that we do not become victim to sanctions that have secondary effects on countries that have no involvement in issues that have led to those unilateral sanctions. So certainly this was discussed, and it is work that is being considered by the officials of the NDB and will be guided to them as to what the future models might be.
So we're having two questions for each minister. The second question to Minister Pandor will be from Bulelani from the SABC. There's a microphone next to you there.
Good evening, Minister, and to all the Foreign Affairs Ministers. My name is Bulelani from the SABC. Minister Pandor, I just want you to explain to South Africans the Gazette of Immunity and Privileges that was gazetted. Who does it cover for this meeting as well as the August BRICS Summit? Would that include the heads of state, particularly President Vladimir Putin? And secondly, what's your take on the court action that has been initiated relating to trying to force the government to make an arrest if President Putin does come to South Africa? Thanks.
Jason, you are very competent to answer that question. Because you've dealt with it over more than 5 days in the media. I don't know if Bulelani was awake when you made so many statements about the matter. So perhaps you could explain. It's a normal practice when countries host international conferences to issue such gazettes. Could you just explain?
No, actually, I was on SABC earlier today. We've explained that each time South Africa hosts an international conference or summit, we gazette diplomatic immunities and privileges. This is nothing out of the ordinary. We've done this previously when we hosted BRICS in 2018, in 2013, COP17, WSSD, and we also made the point, Bulelani, that these immunities that have been gazetted do not override any warrant that may be issued by any international tribunal against any attendee of any of these conferences that we're talking about. So that is your answer. We can have a bilateral after this if you want me to expand further than that. Okay, the next question will be from Anton.
Bulelani had asked two questions. What is my take on, I think he said, the DA court case. I don't have a take on it because the Justice Minister must address that. Should I be cited as a respondent? I'm not in receipt personally of the papers. The legal officers will advise as to how we respond.
Thanks, Minister. Anton?
Thank you. My name is Anton Zolotnitsky, Izvestia from Russia, and my question is to Minister Lavrov. So, as we see now, many countries declare their desire to be invited into the BRICS group. For instance, today you met with the delegation from Saudi Arabia, who also expressed their desire to do that. Could you please tell us about the progress that is being made in this direction, and why do you think BRICS attracts so many countries? Thank you.
Well, indeed, we discussed this issue, and I did discuss it with the minister from Saudi Arabia this morning. As regards the approach of BRICS, it is still being shaped, it's evolving, and the Sherpas reported to us about the results they reached at this stage, and the chair authorized them to continue after they have listened to comments which were made by each of us at the meeting. BRICS is a different structure. It's a new organization based on the principles of equality, mutual respect, consensus, non-interference, and strict adherence to the United Nations Charter, to all its principles in their interlinkages. It is not for BRICS, to pick and choose something which you like in the charter for this particular situation, and then to do the opposite for another situation. So it's, I think BRICS symbolizes the evolution of the multipolar world, which is talked about very often and more so, and the attraction to more than a dozen countries of BRICS is a testimony to that.
The next question is from Yuri.
Добрый вечер. Юрий Кагалов, «Российская газета». Сергей Викторович, не могли бы вы прокомментировать вот эту историю, будто бы саммит БРИКС якобы мог быть перенесен из ЮАР в Китай? Как вы относитесь к этому?
Minister Lavrov, my question from Rossiyskaya Gazeta is about the information that we have read in the media about the BRICS summit allegedly being moved to China. What's your take on that?
Как я понимаю, эта новость была опубликована только в одной какой-то желтой английской газете, а я английских газет не читаю.
This information was published just in one British tabloid, and I don't read British papers.
Thank you very much, Minister. We're going to move to Julie from CGTN. Is the microphone next to you, or it's coming?
Good evening, ministers. I do think it's similar to what my colleague asked a little bit before, but this question is for the Vice Foreign Minister from China. So the August summit is being taunted as one of the most important ones. Could we ask you to comment if the BRICS will be expanding to other countries, and who will likely to be included, and what is the criteria? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. And we all remember in 2017, it was the Xiamen meeting started the quote unquote the BRICS Plus model, and we can also recall in 2022 when China chaired the BRICS. The meetings or dialogues of the BRICS Plus was held in many areas. And so we can see that for the past years, the model of BRICS Plus developing very fast. And that was very well recognized by the BRICS countries, as well as the international community, and actually provided one platform for the solidarity cooperation between the developing countries and the emerging market economies. So we are very happy to see this kind of model has been developing in the right way. And last year, during the Beijing summit, the leaders of the BRICS reached consensus on the steps for the furthering of the expansion of the BRICS. And we are happy to see that more and more countries express their willingness to join us in the BRICS family. For China, we welcome the intention of those countries to join the BRICS, and we expect more countries to join our big family. And I think the BRICS countries is inclusive and pursue the road of opening up and also win-win cooperation. And this is in very sharp contrast to some countries' small circle. And so I believe the enlargement of the BRICS will be beneficial to the BRICS countries, beneficial to developing countries, and to increase the representation influence of this mechanism, and also to garner bigger power of the BRICS to serve the interests of developing countries and emerging market economies, as well as the international development cause. Thank you very much.
Said.
Thank you. 毛部长您好，我是凤凰市的萨伊德。My name is Said. I'm from Phoenix TV, China. My question is: some Western countries are trying hard to hold the emerging markets and developing countries to their point of view. So they appear to do this using various means, which comes at a risk of the development of those countries. My question is: in your view, how should the emerging markets and the developing countries deal with this matter? Thank you.
Since you start to ask questions in Chinese, so I answer a question in Chinese. But we have interpretations. 今天的金砖外长会晤和明天的金砖外长的这个挚友会议啊，我觉得都是新兴市场国家、发展国家代表的聚会。会议的主题呢，都是团结、合作、共赢。
The BRICS Foreign Ministers meeting today and the Friends of BRICS Foreign Ministers meeting tomorrow will both be the gatherings of the representatives of emerging markets and developing countries, and both are themed on solidarity, progress, and win-win cooperation.
同时呢，我们也看到这个世界上也有个别国家，他们热衷于拉小圈子、搞脱钩断链，对一些发展中国家的发展包括中国在内进行打压遏制。本质上就是不允许别国发展，搞经济胁迫，这个同我们金砖国家的团结合作形成了鲜明的对照。
But we at the same time see that some certain countries in the world trying to contain other countries seek decoupling and sever supply chains. They're building exclusive circles and trying to suppress and contain the development of China and other developing countries. Essentially, they do not wish to allow the developing countries to achieve development or economic prosperity. This is in sharp contrast with what BRICS is doing.
但是我要说，历史告诉我们，发展中国家的发展壮大是历史潮流，是不可阻挡的。那么，面对这种胁迫、打压和遏制，我觉得我们要做到四个要。
But history has already told us that the development and strengthening of developing countries is a trend of history that will not be stopped. And in the face of such suppression, containment, we must do the following four things.
第一个呢，要做到自信。我们发展中国家和新兴市场国家，包括金砖国家在内，都有着优秀的历史传统和灿烂的文化文明，这是我们的底气所在，也是我们的智慧和力量源泉所在。
First, be confident. The emerging markets and developing countries, including the BRICS countries, all enjoy profound history and traditions and splendid cultures and civilizations. This is the source of our confidence and of our wisdom and strength.
第二，要做到自主。发展中国家和新兴市场国家，我们自己的事情要自己说了算，谁也没有权利充当教师爷，也无法剥夺发展中国家走适合自身发展道路的权利。
Second, be independent. The emerging markets and developing countries should manage their own affairs, and these affairs are up to ourselves. No one else has the right to lecture us or take away our right to follow a path that suits our own national conditions.
第三呢，就要自立发展中国家和新兴市场国家，我们都是国际社会的平等成员，我们不依附谁，也不取悦谁，我们更不会去威胁谁。我们所有的努力都是为了使本国的人民过更好的日子。
Third, be self-reliant. The developing countries and emerging markets are equal members of the international community. We do not depend on or please anybody, and still less will we threaten anyone. All the efforts we make are aimed to deliver a better life for our own peoples.
最后一个就是自强。新兴市场和发展中国家在世界事务当中应该享有更大的发言权和代表性。我们完全有意愿也有能力为世界和平发展做出我们应有的贡献。
And the last point is to be self-strengthening. The emerging markets and developing countries should have a greater representation and voice in world affairs. We have the willingness and the ability to make our due contribution to world peace and development.
我也期待着在明天的会议上，跟更多的发展中国家、新兴市场国家进一步进行讨论交流，凝聚更多的共识，为世界的和平发展做出我们更大的贡献。
And I look forward to tomorrow's meeting where we will have further exchanges with other emerging markets and developing countries to build more consensus for cooperation and make a greater contribution to world peace and development.
Thank you very much, Excellency. We've got the last two questions. Aisha Ismail.
Good evening. My name is Aisha Ismail from ENCA. I'd like to know from the ministers from India and Brazil your views on the expansion of the BRICS family.
We had a detailed discussion, as my colleague ministers told you. What happened last year was that the BRICS leaders had asked us to formulate the guiding principles, the standards, the criteria, and the procedures. This is still work in progress. So I think we are approaching this with a positive intent, with an open mind. And I also want you to appreciate that there are many aspects of it. One part of it is actually to consolidate how the existing BRICS members are working with each other. The second part of it is how the BRICS engages non-BRICS countries. And the third part of it is how we look at potential expansion. So, what will be the appropriate format for that is also something we need to work on. So, bottom line, I think, which Mr. Pandor and others also mentioned, is we're still working on it. The Sherpas have been tasked with it, and we'll have to see, what they come up with.
Well, thank you very much for your question. I don't have much more to add to what Minister Jaishankar said. I just would like to add a few considerations. First of all, that BRICS is a history of success. In 15 years, we made a lot of progress. We have now the NDB, the New Development Bank, which is very active and very important in fulfilling one of the objectives of this group. And the group is also, I said this during the meeting, a brand and an asset. So we have to take care of it and see, because it means a lot, it represents a lot. I also mentioned that 31.5% of the world GDP is produced by the 5 countries of BRICS, countries which also have 40% of the world population. So it's a very important asset. And we are working. This is maybe why of this big success, that it's attracted the attention of many other countries in 15 years. So we are still, our Sherpas and ourselves, we are still working on this issue of the expansion. It's a work in progress. We have to advise our presidents for the coming summit in August in Johannesburg, and we are still studying. We discussed a number of different standards that would or issues that should be put into this discussion, and we sent this work to the Sherpas to produce something and bring it to us later, and then we'll be able to inform our heads of states. Thank you.
The very last question for the evening before we conclude from Al Jazeera.
Good evening, Famida Miller from Al Jazeera. I wanted to respond to a reaction from the various ministers, including the minister from Brazil, of reaction to the arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin. The ICC.
Well, this was a decision that was already explained by the spokesperson of the South African government. It's normally take place in many countries, and heads of states are treated with a courtesy extension of privileges when they come to different countries. So, and besides that, it's a sovereign decision of the country, the hosting country, and of course also a sovereign decision of the invited country to come or not. But for us, it's I see it's very normal.
I think this is something we did not discuss as the BRICS foreign ministers, so I'm not sure that everybody has a response. And you asked the Minister of Brazil to respond on the matter, and I believe he has attempted to do so. So shall we leave it there? I have explained previously what South Africa is doing with respect to this, and I think you can go back to the records of ENCA, and you will find what we've said about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellencies. This marks the conclusion of the press briefing. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Until they go out, we decided that.